I'm Matt Braunger. This might help.
I am not a doctor.
This might help.
I'm not a professional.
Let's have fun. This honestly is a good time.
Honestly, I got no idea what I'm doing. What's going on, Corey?
I'm Matt Braunger. This might help. The podcast. Hey guys, welcome to This Might Help with Matt Braunger, where we try to offer advice and ultimately fail or succeed. Either way, it's fun. This week, I have a great friend. I'd say an old friend, but she's young, super young like I am. And you might know her from Baskets, or if you're a fan of stand-up comedy, you definitely know her from that. Please welcome someone who it sounds like I'm superficially introducing as if I don't know her. So it might be weird for her. So I should just keep going. So it continues. Martha Kelly, everybody.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, buddy.
Hey, I just realized my background is for some reason flipped the wrong way.
It looks great from this angle. So if you want, we can flip it around for you, but it just looks the same to everybody.
Oh, okay, good.
You're cool, like always.
Great. Well, thank you for having me.
You got it. I just to start off on somber news, which we all love. Sucks about Cap City, huh?
Yeah, it really does. It didn't hit me until last night. There's a Facebook group for Austin comics, and everybody was in there posting, and I just felt sadder and sadder. It is really sad.
For folks that don't know, Cap City is a legendary comedy club in Austin, Texas, where Martha is from and made her comedy bones. And now, it's gone. So it's because of COVID.
I mean, there is there's hope that something will reopen in a different way that'll in some way be like Cap City, but I don't know any details. The Austin comedy scene is so great, and it has been for decades. Like, even people will leave and then new comics come in, and it's always a really great scene.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those towns that's so incredibly artistic and forward thinking in terms of the arts. So comedy kind of can't help but thrive there. And I don't know. I think Texas is such a good comedy state. Like, that might sound crazy to some people, but Houston's got so much amazing comedy. Austin, Dallas, there's all these places. I had a great weekend in San Antonio once, but like, just Austin, there's no place like it. You know,
I've only ever had one good show in San Antonio, and it was not at a club. It was at a Dom. I can't remember the name of it, but it's at a kind of like a black box venue that's really great, and I can't fucking remember. Forget it.
It's fine. Anyway, the point is, it's sad that club is going away. But hopefully it comes back. But you started out in Austin, just
actually started in LA in 98, and then I moved to Austin in 2000, and that's where I really started doing like featuring, and then started doing the road and stuff. So I started out here, but Austin is definitely the place. If I hadn't moved there, I don't know that I ever would have done more than 5 minutes at a time of stand-up.
Right. Sure. Well, I don't understand people that start out in LA. I think, obviously not now, but in the past couple of years I can see it, because I think there's a lot but more of I quote unquote underground scene where people can do all kinds of weird stuff, and I think that's kind of essential to a comedy scene, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But before that, it was kind of just like the big clubs and open mics, and there was kind of nothing in between, and that's just a tough jump for everybody.
I started here because I grew up here, and so I just was already living here. I wouldn't move to LA or New York if you're brand new and looking for a ton of stage time, because it's
No.
expensive to live
Yeah.
here, and you drive really far to maybe do 3 minutes in front of 3 other comics.
Yeah, no, it's insane. You want to have some kind of toehold, I think, before you go to New York, before you go to LA. I think New York is probably not a terrible place to start out because you can do it so often, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's so expensive. I mean, I tell people all the time, start out in Chicago, start out in Portland, pick a random place, Salt Lake City, with a good club. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
Minneapolis is great, and Austin.
Yes.
Atlanta has a great scene.
Oh my God, Atlanta. I forgot about Atlanta. Atlanta's got like the best comedy scene there is because it's all over the place. There's always shows. It's wild. Now, are you doing the Zoom thing at all, or are you just tapping out for a while?
I've tapped out and undecided whether I'll ever tap back in. I did one stand-up show on Zoom, and there was an audience. They were great. I still hated it. I don't know if I ever want to do stand-up again, let alone for sure not on Zoom.
Sure.
But like I know people that do a lot of Zoom stand-up shows, and there's definitely an audience for it,
Yeah.
So,
that's
not
kind of.
I'm not good at it.
It's how I'm kind of getting out of my comfort zone healthily, if that makes any sense. Doing stuff online because like I know this is going to suck. Like I can say this now because this episode will come out 3 weeks from now. It's now September 9th. I'm doing a show in a drive-in this weekend, and I'm sure it will suck. It's not just me; it's me and 4 or 5 other people.
That sounds fun.
But I'm psyched. I'm psyched to do it. But I'm just like, I don't. It's so essential to have that immediate feedback. Like, do I look into people's windshields and see them laughing and kind of it's so odd, but it's like, but I just do it, and it's kind of freeing to not expect anything. Like, it might be great. I might talk to you again and be like, "Oh, I was an asshole, Martha. That was fantastic." But I have to drive an hour to Irvine to do it, and then I drive, do 20 minutes, and then I drive an hour home. So, but it's just there. The slogan for 2020 should be, there's something freeing about low expectations. There's something there's some freedom in the hellish prison that we found ourselves in. Have you found any bright sides to any of this that were surprising to you? Because they do exist, I think.
Yeah, I definitely am connecting with a lot of people in Austin on Zoom who I wasn't connecting with as often.
Yeah.
And my dog and I have become much closer.
That's fantastic.
I've organized some things. I mean, listen, I don't enjoy the quarantine necessarily, although actually I have several neighbors that I have really friendly relationships with, whereas before this happened, I knew the people next door.
Yes.
And then now it's like when I walk my dog, people are around, and there's several houses where we have like a, hey, how's it going conversation. And I love getting to know neighbors. That's really especially nice in LA because it's not necessarily the norm.
No. Yeah. No, it's very, I'm lucky enough to live on a little cul-de-sac, and we all pretty much know each other. And when my wife and I had a kid a month ago, and it's just been this like kind of children of men situation where it's like, oh, there's still life. We can still have joy. So everyone's just like, where's Rose? So we'll take her out for a walk, and you can see people look out their windows and wave and stuff. And I used to be very kind of anti that. Growing up, I always wanted to live in a city and not talk to anyone but have my own friends, but I dig it now. I really dig having people you can count on a little bit that live around you,
Yeah. So wait, your daughter's name is Rose?
That's her name.
You know,
Yep.
my dog's name is Rosie. You didn't steal my name, did you, from my dog? Because
No, I will say this. I call her Rose. I call her Roosevelt. I call her Rosalind. Uh, my wife, if you call her Rosie, she's like, that's not her name. Like, she does not like. I love Rosie. I love that name, and it's like sometimes I'll still slip and be like, "Come on, Rosie," but it's just like she'll kind of like knee jerk, like no. So to answer your question, no, but yes, because I still like that name. You know,
I'm congratulations. I don't have kids, but I'm close to my niece and my nephew, and I love babies, and I think that they are the best. They are the best euphoric source of euphoria that you can find, at least for me.
it is. It's true. Everything they say. Like, I melt when I'm around her. It's like, I don't know why I love her so much. I just do. Uh, I find her stuff she does hilarious. Like the way she like takes things in and watches. Her hair is like Danny DeVito's. Like, she has all this thick hair and it is really thin in the front. So she just looks, and it just gets wild and nuts from the heat. So it looks like she's trying to sell you a used car and she's a man. But like, putting her in at that thing where I wake up in the morning and I change her and then I put some crazy fucking outfit on and bring her back to bed and put her in bed with my wife. It's just like when they're like, remember all this because it goes so fast. It's like, that's all I'm doing. And that's for me the great thing about this quarantine, where it's like, oh, I get to play with this kid. And it's, there are those moments where I'm just like very lovey-dovey, but for the most part, I'm just like, this is pretty great. I'm having a lot of fun with this kid. And also she's not too fussy. She'll start crying when she's hungry. And then she just kind of stops when you kind of like, give her food or kind of bounce her a little bit. So we're pretty lucky, I think. I'm jinxing myself right now. Of course, in a year, she's going to speak full sentences and hate me, but like,
No, she'll stay great. I wholeheartedly believe she will stay great.
Well, I wish you could come over and hold her. I would love for her to meet you and so many more of my friends, and kind of we're lucky that we had friends who've gotten tested to come over. Just, fucking take my kid, walk around with her, because I don't want to have that kid that just like, as soon as a stranger holds her, a stranger to her, like a friend of mine, and just like starts crying. Because I had a friend who did that, where she just wouldn't let anyone hold her kid, and now her kid is just 5 years old and incredibly adjusted and stuff, and she knows she kind of fucked up doing that, but like her kid was like, it was wild. She'd be like, I have to use the bathroom, can you hold her? She's gonna really cry. I'm like, okay, you hold her. And it's just, this kid would scream like your hands were on fire, and you're like, hey, can you hurry up? Because she just had this, and it was hilarious because Kara's mom is Jean, or Jeannie, has this thickest Boston by way of Lake Erie, Pennsylvania accent, and just didn't give a fuck. Would just pick that kid up and just walk around with her and just, oh, yeah, fine. And it was because this kid is like clawing at her, and she's just like, wee. Like, I love when someone has raised a human child to adulthood and is like, oh, that baby can scream all he wants. I'm going to pick that baby up. I don't give a shit.
That's, I don't know if I might have leaned more towards don't get your hands off my baby if I had my own, but my niece was the first baby that I really got like bonded with. And everybody was constantly bickering with each other about whose turn it was to hold her.
Of course.
So then was totally easygoing with people holding her. But there were some times at big gatherings where some people held her that I would be eyeballing and ready to just punch right in the nose.
Yeah. Well, Kyle had that bit that was like, I found out when I went home for Christmas, I get the kind of drunk that people won't let me hold their babies. Like, and it's that thing where it's like, I'm glad I'm having a baby now in my, mid into late 40s, where, I mean, my friends drink and stuff, but no one is doing that thing that I certainly used to do, where just you're stumbling around and it's like, what's a
Right.
weekend if you're not borderline blackout?
Right.
What-
Totally.
no one's doing that anymore, because it's like no one wants to feel like death for 3 days, and no one wants to embarrass themselves, and your personal health and all that too. Blah, blah, blah. But
It's hard. Yeah, it got harder and harder for me to recover from
mhm.
hangovers. But yeah, when you're in your 20s and early 30s, it just feels like I can put my body through the ringer, and who gives a
Yes.
shit?
Well,
You
and
know?
it's like, and why wouldn't I? Like, I have these superpowers. Why am I not using them to
Exactly.
test my physical stamina and health on a nightly basis? Like, well,
Yeah.
if you're like your story of sobriety, I always found fascinating, because you were just like, I would get drunk off a few beers regularly, and then I stopped. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of your, because as you told me.
Yeah. I think like some people are really high functioning alcoholics where they might get totally wasted, but they can still hold a job and like buy groceries,
Yeah.
whatever. But I was like, I could hold it together most of the time in front of people while I was drunk, but my actual life was, I mean, I was living like a cave person, just
Yeah.
really primitive, barely getting through the day kind of shit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's I would say almost, I won't say the most common type, but like, it's so much more common than I always thought. When you're growing up, and then you start drinking in your teen years and stuff, and then college and in your adulthood, and alcohol is such a massive, massive part of adult life, that your conception of someone who has a problem is someone who just drinks in public and drinks socially and finds an excuse, because most people, they say misery loves company. I feel like partying loves company, alcohol loves
yeah,
company. But so many people I know who've gotten sober or scaled back or whatnot. David Letterman was talking about that and I never knew he had a problem with any kind of substance, but I guess he would perform at the Comedy Store and feel so intimidated by, Richard Pryor and Robin Williams and Elaine Boozler. He would go back to his house and just drink himself stupid, like every night
wow.
by himself. And it's like, it's fascinating that's
The drinking alone thing I never really did, because alcohol made me want to be around people, and
oh, okay.
the rare times that I tried just drinking at home was like really almost unbearable.
Oh,
Like
wow.
wanting to be around people and be like, well, now I'm too drunk to drive anywhere and be with people. Like it wasn't, it really didn't work, but
I always did. And Austin is such a place to drink. It's so
yeah.
prevalent. It's so common. It's the place where everyone always has a beer outside.
Yeah.
And it's that almost that thing of like, if you don't, people are like, what are you doing? Where's your beer?
Right.
It's got to be tough.
Also, Chicago is also a great drinking town. The first time I went there was 2002 for the Chicago Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much. Like I kind of wish I had lived in Chicago at some point, because it's a great city for a lot of reasons, but certainly for an alcoholic, it's a wonderful city.
I had a great time. I always say it was a great place to spend my 20s.
Yeah.
I moved there when I was 22, and then I left when I was 28. And I felt like I got out just in time, because I still would go back and go nuts with everybody. But I lived next door to a bar that closed at 4 a.m.
Right.
I could just walk out the door and go up the stairs. And that last summer I was there, my girlfriend had broken up with me, and I was sad all the time, and I wasn't admitting it to myself. But
Right.
I also, it's wild that I never said to myself, why are you going to this bar every night by yourself after you leave your friends? or you're trying to get them to go and they don't want to go, and you're just there and you're bothering the bartenders. Like, I remember just drinking and being like, oh, I'm not done with my story. Come here. And the guy's like, I got to work, man. And they were like my friends, but just like, oi. Looking back on that last summer, I'm just like, thank God I just took that plunge to just like go somewhere else, you know? I mean, I took my drinking buddy with me, but.
Well, I think that's when I met you guys in Chicago, or for sure I met Kyle. And then, but I definitely, when I moved back out here at the end of 2003, I met you guys before I quit drinking. So I remember, I thought when I came back out here, I would go back to kind of being able to control my drinking. And instead, within a couple weeks, I met all you Chicago guys. I was like, now it's fun to drink again. Like, I'd been like you, depressed at the end of Austin.
Oh no.
I came here, I was like, oh my God, these guys are so fun. I can't, it was fun though. I only lasted a couple months before I had to totally quit, but it was definitely fun.
Well, I'm glad we sent you off on a high note, before we.
It was a great send off.
Good. Sure. I'm glad to hear that. Okay. Well, are you ready to hear our first call?
Yes.
Okay. That's wild. I never even knew that. Okay. Roll it, Renee.
Hello, Mr. Braunger. I am a 25-year-old child, and I would like some advice about some kind of relationship issues. So I was in a relationship for about 5 years. We broke up last December. If you're counting, that is 2019, December of 2019. And it is now September of 2020. So I have not seen her in quite a while. However, we are on fairly good terms, which is to say that we, haven't seen each other in person, but we do talk. The point I'm trying to get at is that for the last month and a half, I've been basically fuck buddies with one of her close friends, and she doesn't know about it, and her friends feel sort of guilty about it, whereas I don't really feel like I owe anything to her anymore, considering the way that she left things and how she hooked up with one of her coworkers like a week after we broke up. But that kind of detail doesn't really matter. I'm not looking to be vindictive. I'm not trying to spite her or anything, but we just kind of hit it off, and it's nothing serious. But we, are doing this, and she has been focused on trying to confront. Okay, the person I'm trying to hook up, who I've been hooking up with, is trying to tell my ex about this, and so far I have no idea how to help her in the scenario. And I like her, and I consider this person I'm hooking up with a friend, so I don't want her to go into this uncomfortable, and I was wondering if there's anything I could do to help her with this process, or if there's even if I should reach out personally, because so far I felt like I don't need to reach out personally, because it's kind of none of her business, in my opinion, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm getting mixed messages from my friends. So if you guys could help me out, that'd be lovely. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Wow. Good Lord, that's a lot to unpack. That's a bin full of like loaded mousetraps to sort through. First off, I want to say you have the voice of a 72-year-old private eye. When that voice came on, I was like, and he said, I'm a 25-year-old child? When he said 25, I was like, hold on. 25 times what? Like, that voice sounds like equal parts gravel, bourbon, and cigars.
Agree.
He's probably a huge man. But okay. What's your first impression of this, and you go first, Martha?
Don't tell your ex and tell the girl you're sleeping with not to tell. There's no reason to tell somebody. What good would come of that? Like, I think that a friend of mine might have hooked up with an ex one night when they were both really drunk.
Okay.
I I can't remember why, but I got the impression from the way they both acted about it that something weird had happened. I never asked any follow-up questions. I don't ever need or want to know. Why? If you're getting married, then yeah, maybe your exes need to know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't tell. Why?
No, that's exactly how I felt. Like, this is the way, the fact that you described her as a fuck buddy, which I hope you don't call her that to her face. Unless you guys are calling each other that and you have a sense of humor about it. And the fact that the thing is, it seems like everybody knows but your ex. And that's kind of fine, kind of not, but you just gotta both go, all right, what do we want out of this? Is this something that should continue? Do we want it to continue? Do we have feelings for each other? Like, you guys got to be honest with each other about where this is going to go. If it's going to go somewhere real, I guess you can tell her, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like, look, your friendship with her is pretty much dead. And that's okay. That's all right. I mean, people talk about being friends with their exes, but I honestly feel like for the most part, really, the whole Jerry and Elaine thing is total bullshit. I've never really known a lot of people or anyone like that. It's like, oh yeah, we dated for a while and now we're just besties. It's like,
right.
I don't know. That whole thing of like, let's stay friends. You're not really friends. Not really. I don't think you're on great terms and all that. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it, Martha. I was like sitting here, my brain's going here and there and trying to figure. It's just like, yeah, just don't tell her, and tell them not to tell her. That's the end.
Yeah, I agree. And also I agree that it definitely didn't sound 25. Good
Lord. Just a rumbling monster. I'm 25 and I don't believe you. This is a terrible bit of catfishing. Okay, so yeah, dude, just don't tell unless you guys have real feelings for each other and it's going to be something. Then you can let her tell her, I think. What do you think, Martha?
Yeah, if the quote fuck buddy's reason for wanting to tell her friend is that she values that friendship and wants to be able to tell her friend in a way that it won't be harmful to her friendship with her, that's between them. But for the guy, I would say, for the caller, like, just, I wouldn't get involved in it, especially because the bit at the end where he said, I don't feel like I owe her anything considering how she ended it and that she hooked up with a coworker a week later. Like,
yeah,
you do sound a little angry.
Yeah.
So maybe don't stir anything up.
No, and that was telling that he kind of brought that out, that was something that burnt him, and I'm sure I would feel the same way.
Totally.
But it is wild, the level of shared information. How do you know that she fucked her coworker? Right. I don't think she told you. Like,
hope not. That would be mean. I hope she didn't tell him.
Do you remember Andy? We fucked. Oh. Look, I was just calling to get my my shoes I left at your house back. I just wanted to see if you'll be around. I just want to pick them up. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, just don't. And yeah, she's gonna. It won't be good for anyone. Yeah. And also think about maybe getting another fuck buddy. I don't know.
Yeah, if you can go outside of a mutual friend group, that's probably a better idea.
Yeah, I had a friend in Chicago who actually, when he moved to LA, I rented him and his buddy had a house they rented together, and I rented a house. It was the first place I lived in when I first moved to LA. It was in Venice, but he had a friend he told me about back in Colorado where he's from, who the thing this dude would routinely do is if the guys, he only asked out friends' exes. So it's like a girl he already knows. So like, look, like you and I are dating and things don't work out. But my friend who you've met, who we've all hung out, is like, hey, now that you're not with Braunger, I mean, do you want to get a drink? You would just do that all. And these girls would be like, no, what? And it was really fucking like kind of gross.
He wasn't hooking up with them, but he was making inappropriate date requests. Is that?
Yeah, I think he was. I don't know if he was making it like strictly sexual advances. My impression was he would ask them out, like once they were out of the picture with like his friend. Which I've always kind of had a rule, like don't date your ex's friends or anyone they kind of associate with. You know, I'm just saying, I'm not saying anyone needs to have that rule. And I'm sure if I go over my history, I'm sure I've broken it here and there, but like, the fact that guy routinely, serially did that was gross. So not saying what you did is gross, man, but if it's going to be a continual, I don't know, I would look at just breaking it off, pretending like it never happened, walking away, letting your ex be not hurt. Yeah. Easy for me to say, but that's why I do that show, because I don't care about anyone who calls in. Joking, but it is easy. And that's the fun. All right. Hope that helps. 80-year-old, 25-year-old. Caller number 2.
Hey, Matt. I'm a dude in my early 30s. Kind of wants to hit the reset button. Life's gotten a little stagnant. This whole COVID thing and all. Anyway, I was thinking about making a move to either Chicago or Portland. And I was wondering, like, in your opinion, do you think that's... Your 30s too old to move to, like, a new happening spot? Or you think your respective cities are worth giving a shot to? Anyway, I'd love to hear your 2 cents. Thanks.
Dude, 30 is nothing. You're a child. 30? Yeah. What was this? Is this 1812? Where you're going to get the influenza at 32 and you have 9 kids? That's crazy. I mean, look, there are merits to both towns. I honestly don't know which I would recommend. They're both incredibly livable. They're both, I think Portland on the Main is a little less expensive, possibly, but this COVID thing has kind of leavened the field all over the place. So it's if you can stand brutal winters, Chicago's great because you can have a lot more access to things. Portland's a little more livable, but I don't know. It depends on what you're looking for out of life. You have been to both places, Martha. You're a lady of the world. Everyone knows that. Yes. What would you suggest? And let's expound on how. No offense to you, man. I appreciate you calling in, but like 30 is. First off, there's no age too old to move and start anew. Right. I maintain. I don't care how old you are. It doesn't matter. It's your life. Like, anytime someone's like, is it too old to, it's like, if you're talking about being a teen model, yes, there's an expiration date, but like for the most part, it's based on other people's feelings and assumptions, and fuck those people. Don't you think 30 is a little too late? No, you do. I'm going to do what I want to do, So anyway.
Yeah, I was 32 when I moved to Austin the first time. I didn't start stand-up for real until right before my 30th birthday. So it's never too late to be an underachiever. That's one thing. Another, I just remembered when he mentioned Chicago, that the first time I went to Chicago and we went down to the beach, I thought it was the Atlantic Ocean. I did not know that the Great Lakes were so big that you couldn't see the other side of it. And I was like, wow, hadn't realized how close Chicago was to the ocean. And then people were like, you're not very smart.
No, when my friend Brian McKee and I moved to Chicago, one of my best friends from childhood. I grew up with him. We went to high school together. And when I got out of college, went to school in New York, and I was like, I'm moving to Chicago. And he's like, I think I want to move to Chicago. I want to get out of Portland. He was my roommate. And when we got to Chicago, we used to fill up little like water jugs of cocktails and bike around at night. And I remember being down by Lake Michigan and him just sitting there going, no, I don't give a fuck. That's the ocean. Just kept saying that over and over and over. You know,
And that's what I thought. It's real big.
it's so big.
Very big.
Yes, it's enormous.
If I was gonna move either of those two places, personally, I would pick Chicago because I find snow to be exciting because I grew up in
Mhm.
California,
Mhm.
and also you get great thunderstorms,
Yep.
and you're right there on the Atlantic Ocean. So that's what I would go to.
The most important thing. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm definitely a Portland guy, but there just is no place like Chicago that combines the big city with Midwestern livability. Minneapolis is another one I would say consider, because that's also incredible. You do have the cold, but you have access to all this incredible nature in both places. But Chicago it's big shoulders town. It is where a lot of very big cool stuff happens. Very cool stuff happens in Portland, but it's very small scale, and it depends honestly what you want to do with your life. But in Chicago you have access to a lot more things, I will say. And 30, you're a young person, and I really loved being a young person in Chicago. And it wasn't. Sounds like I'm just like you can get fucked up all the time. Like, no, that's not what I mean. I knew sober people then. I know sober people now who live in Chicago, and they have incredible lives. There's just so much access, so much awesomeness. Not as much now because of COVID, but I mean, even just, I was thinking about how much I missed the street fairs in the Midwest, because the summertime is so worshipped because there isn't that much of it. There isn't that, Portland gets really rainy, but because of global warming, it's almost year round nice now, which is not cool. It's weird.
Yeah.
But in Chicago, just the street fairs, you cannot beat how fun they are. And everyone's there. There's young people want to party. There's families. It's like, it's like boiling a college town down to a street. And there's like one every couple blocks. It's just, I loved them so much. So.
I agree.
Yeah,
Chicago it is.
I think we're saying Chicago. I think, and not just because of the really awesome stuff happening in the streets of Portland. Okay, so
Oh yeah.
I know. God, I had Ian Carmel on last week, and we didn't get into it much, but we're kind of, we had to touch on it some, but it's something else.
My only complaint about Portland has nothing to do with any of what's happening right now. It's that the first time I went there, walking down the sidewalk in downtown Portland, and a gentleman on a bicycle with a dog riding on the sidewalk stared me down. I had to get out of the way. He's riding a bike and pulling a dog on the sidewalk. And I was like, the fucking hippies of Portland, I'll never give them another chance.
As my mother put it, and she didn't write this, but it's where young people go to retire. Like, it's, my parents have been there since the late 70s when they brought me there as an almost a baby. And it's always been Chuck Palahniuk, who wrote Fight Club, wrote a book called, I think it's like Rejects and Refugees. And it's about why Portland is a place where people who just don't fit anywhere just end up. And the sad thing that people don't recognize is, like, that's always been a cool thing for artists and weirdos and stuff like that, and people that want to make their own candle wax gin or whatever the fuck. But now it's people that have these insane fringe views, and now they're all kind of, so.
What having insulted Portland for no reason and essentially kicked them when they're down, I do want to say every comedy show I've done there was delightful. They're a great comedy audience for sure. So I take
it's true, but that's all because of the underground scene. You know, for the longest there was just one comedy club there, and there was one open mic there when I was growing up, and that was kind of it. You know, this place called the Silver Dollar Saloon. So it's one of those things that hasn't always, the arts have always been, you know, embraced there, but there was always kind of, and I don't mean to shit on Portland again, but like when I was there's always a snobbery about stand-up where it's like, oh well, that's, you know, and I know because I co-founded the Bridgetown Fest, and in the beginning where we're just trying to get any press at all, they wouldn't run any articles. We're like, it's a comedy festival in Portland. There's nothing else going on this weekend. Please, you know. I mean, I mentioned this on the show before, but our big act the first year of Bridgetown was Tig, and this writer at the Willamette Week was like, he's like, oh, I'll interview her about being a lesbian in comedy. Specifically, he said that, and Tig was like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. We talk about something else. And he's like, well, then I'm not going to interview her. And it was like, Jesus Christ, Portland.
Yeah, Austin's arts journalists also not that big on stand-up, never have been. I don't get it, but
well, but that I think
it's on them because the club closed. So
we win. Yeah, I mean, I think you just made the point right there. Like you said, you don't get it. That person just didn't get it. But it's like, that's fine. But you need to have somebody who's on a comedy desk.
Yeah.
You know, like it was wild, the divergent thought between the Portland Mercury that always covered comedy and did it, you know, very well, but also covered the other arts and was a lot more tongue in cheek about almost everything. And then Willamette Week that always kind of held itself to this weird standard. So they would write, I mean, Ron Funches wrote this thing to them, this thread on Twitter about like, you always manage to be condescending whenever you cover comedy. Like, how do you pull that off? And it was that thing where I was like, wow, you nailed it, Ron. Where I was like, I don't understand why I'll read these. And that's not true anymore. They've evolved over the past, you know, 6-7 years. They've gotten way better. But like, there was that time where we're just like, God, we put a lot of work into this. Why are you being assholes?
Right.
You cover the arts. How does that make you let you be a bully in your world? I don't understand. Well, I mean, we're gonna do one more call. Let's just send good vibes out to the universe to get Cap City back, because I want them to not only have the framed picture of you and Chip Pope and Chris Fairbanks, you know, on the walls. I would like there to be like the sign for the new Cap City to be like a Mount Rushmore, like all your faces, you know, but just taking their drawings of pictures taken of you guys in like unfortunate moments, you know, like Chip sleeping, you yawning, you know, Chris screaming with rage. Because one of the things I do love about Chris is he just has this bottomless pit of anger, and you don't see it that often, but when it comes out, oh boy, he and I kind of have that in common a little bit. So
I can also relate. So yeah. Okay. I have a very soft spot for people who have rage issues like myself. So
same. Okay, well, hopefully this last call will be about being too angry. So let's roll the third. Thanks, Renee.
Hey, Matt. My wife is about 34 weeks pregnant with our first child. What can I do in the next month to support her, and how can I prepare for this major life shakeup? Thanks a lot. Hey.
Okay. All right. I think between the two of us, you should answer this one, Martha. Oh. No. I mean, look, man, just don't over anticipate, but just do everything you can to help. Just make it. It's definitely about her. It's what she's going through, and just make sure you'd be like, hey, do you need a water? Do you need this? Do you need that? Can I get you some food or whatever? And as long as you're kind of doing the research and talking to your doctor regularly, you're probably doing everything you can. Just get ready for, I was to say this, don't expect anything, because everything you expect will not necessarily be true. Everyone's experience is very different. Our experience in the delivery room was not easy, but it wasn't the worst either. And neither one of us looked back and at it with traumatized eyes. And all of it was worth it. And it's just, I will say about being a father that I've noticed, it's easier and harder than I expected. And I expected it to be not easy, and I expected it to be very hard. And it is, but it's just harder in different ways that I didn't see. And it's also easier in other ways I didn't see. So just really at this point, what you need to do is just be there for her. You know, don't be that person that's getting drunk all the time and only thinking about your own needs. And if you find yourself very angry at something she says or whatever, maybe just swallow it. Maybe just eat your pride. Work on eating your pride, because she's got a living being inside of her that's taking a lot of her nutrients, and it's not easy, and she's not going to be necessarily her best self. So, but just keep a sense of humor. So, Martha, you're a young father. What would you?
As a young father, the most important thing that I've learned from my female friends who've had babies is the only thing I would add to what you said is be very aware that postpartum depression is a real thing.
Yes.
And that lots of times women who have it, like anybody who has depression, you don't want to have it. So at first you might tell yourself it's not what's happening, but if you can treat it, it's better for everybody. So basically, if she acts weird or not like herself after the baby's born, don't assume that it means that she decided, fuck this baby and my husband. Maybe just be like, we should just be vigilant for anything like that. Because I think a lot more women have it than people used to realize.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. I make it a point to not only go, hey, how's Rose doing? If she's taking care of her, like I always go, how are you? You all right? How you feeling? You know, and these days she's always like, great. Yeah. You know.
will you now when you ask her and she says, great, will you go, hold on a minute. Martha said that you've got postpartum depression.
She specifically said you do, Kara. So yeah, now I will bring that into our home. It's such a big deal. So don't let it be that big of a deal. It'll exist as its own big deal. As long as you're there, you run into the store whenever she wants or needs something, and you're in touch with her and her physical and emotional, mental needs. It's nice to be needed. There was no point where I was just like, man, I just want to fucking watch movies on my laptop, leave me alone, or whatever. I dug the fact that I had, especially now during quarantine, where I had a function. I had something to do that actually meant something. So often in this stupid business, you're writing stuff that no one will ever see or hear. With this, it's just like, oh, I'm helping her get through this. I'm part of the team, you know. So
can I add one last thing about babies?
All you want.
They wrap their little tiny hands, they reach into your chest, they wrap their hands around your heart, they yank it out, they never give it back. And it is the best thing that you've ever experienced. You would grow a new heart just so they could rip it out again. That's how wonderful it is to bond with a baby.
You nailed it. And be excited, because something's coming that you cannot guess how it's going to change your life. And you don't even know what this thing is going to look like. My daughter when she came out, she looked tiny to me. And they're like, no, that's a normal sized baby, sir. But we thought, because my nephew is in literally the 100th percentile for his age, Like he's as big as a child has gotten in history for that age, you know, and I'm big. My wife is tall. We thought we'd have a monster, and she's not, but she's insanely strong. Like I'm not joking. She's like a muscular baby. And she, yeah, I mean, she's like, I did the tummy time thing and she turned herself over. I was like, what the fuck? Like, and of course, then I filmed it and she wouldn't do it because that's how it is. But I'm just saying, that's just an example. Just be excited, man, because you don't know there's all this really cool stuff coming that there's no spoiler possible for it. You're just going to have to learn when you learn. And that's so freeing. It's almost like you can't binge your favorite show, which is always good. You know, it's like when the streaming service is like, no, we're only going to put it out every week. And you're like, fuck you, HBO Max. But it's better because then you only watch the one episode and you get on with the rest of your life. You know?
Exactly.
Weird, really loose analogy. But Martha, thank you for coming on. I hope you had fun.
I did. It's always great to hang out with you, Matt.
You too. I look forward to when we can be around each other and hold hands like we always used to.
Like,
and confusing everyone else at the comedy show. But yeah, I miss you, and I'm glad we can do this. This is one of the great things about this show when I have someone on that I'm good friends with, like yourself, that we never catch up. Besides you doing Hey Girl that time, I never see it.
Right. So. Yeah, it is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You betcha. Thanks for listening to This Might Help with Matt Braunger, featuring my guest, Martha Kelly, who is awesome. If you're on the fence about calling, don't be. It's awesome. Call 323-763-0228. No one's going to answer. There's going to be a recording of me and a beep, and then you leave a message. It's easy. 323-763-0228. Thanks a lot. This Might Help with Matt Braunger was created and hosted by me, Matt Braunger. Produced by Outer Circle Media. Executive producers Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcasts.